Good evening from Ocean Park, Maine, and welcome to the Kindle Chronicles. I'm Len Edgerly. Today is October 23rd, 2020, episode 638. My guest this week is John Love, who is General Manager and Director for Alexa Shopping. And he is, actually this is a bit newsworthy. I think this is the first interview someone from that team has given about a new feature that Alexa has. And I'm just going to demonstrate it for you here as a little teaser for the show with my new round echo. Alexa, recommend a book.
One moment while I find a selection of books for you based on your purchase history. Here's a book you might like. Poems 1962 to 2012 by Louise Gluck. The Kindle ebook is $9.99.
Alexa, stop. You'll hear more about that feature from John Love during the interview, and it opens up some new directions for Alexa. It's a pretty cool thing just in itself, and it just went live last week, so you can try it anytime you'd like. And during the interview, we'll hear a lot more about it. You'll also hear what attracted John to take his first job at Amazon 15 years ago, and what improvements he thinks are underway for shopping via Alexa. In news, there was some sad news last week, the passing of Chris Meadows at the age of 47. He had been riding an electric bicycle when he was struck by a hit-and-run driver driving an SUV, so he sustained terrible injuries, which ended up taking his life just under a week after the accident. Chris worked for a long time at Teleread.com. That's a great site that was founded by David Rothman, and Chris was active for years as a writer and editor. As the site went through some transitions, he was volunteering his support for Teleread, and he had a job at Anthem. David wrote a moving 3,000-word tribute to Chris at Teleread. One thing I liked is Chris had jobs in tech support at Best Buy and others, and his phrase that he was known for is saying, "This is Chris. How can I make your day better?" That's a wonderful phrase to have attached to yourself. I didn't know until I read this account by David that Chris had been a child prodigy, reading at a 6th grade level at the age of 5, and at the age of 6 he read 103 books to win a school competition. I remember he and I both ended up at Book Expo America in Chicago in 2016, and we'd known each other. I think he'd been on the show, and I certainly knew his work. So we got together and rented bicycles, and I think we spent a couple of hours riding to a funky coffee shop not too far from where the Book Expo was held. And we just talked tech, you know. He was a very intense guy and very devoted to the topics of ebooks and e-readers and other technology as well. And so I admired him, and I certainly admired his skill and his output as a writer. He was a phenomenally prolific writer for Teleread. And his online handle was Robotech Master. He was internationally known in the gamers world. Sad news. Rest in peace, Chris Meadows. In his memory, I plan to use my modest tech skills to make someone's day better as often as I can. For the tech tips, I have 4 things I'd like to tell you about. The first is I spent quite a bit of time this afternoon setting up an Echo Show 5 for my 94-year-old friend Jack in Casper, Wyoming. And our idea was to ship this off to him because we just are having a really hard time connecting by Skype. It kicks him off, and he has to create a new password, and we have a weekly talk on Skype, and when it works, it's fine. But I just think it'll be so much easier if we have an Echo Show at his house, and I can talk to him from my Echo Show here. Now, because I wanted to just help him as much as possible, I learned that it is possible to remotely set up an Echo Show for someone. And the site that I used, it was alexa.amazon.com, and I was able to go in there and name the Echo Show, say that it was going to be in Casper. I had to go to the Alexa app to set up the approval for my being able to drop in on Jack, so that when he's got his Echo Show there, I can just say drop in on Jack and I will just appear on his device. It'll be a lot easier than wrestling with Skype. And but all I did to do that was I logged in with his account and on my iPhone and was able to change the settings. So the one thing I did need to know is I had to know his Amazon login and password, and we had a little trouble finding that too. But anyway, it's all set up, and I FedExed the Echo Show 5 to Casper, and by the next time we talk on Tuesday, we'll be hopefully having a nice seamless way to talk with each other via the Echo Show. My friend Kesler Woodward in Fairbanks wrote an interesting, I put this under Tech Tips, he wrote, speaking of note-taking, I did get a Rocketbook journal and was glad I did. I don't like it and quit using it, partly because I found it too easy to smear, a pain to erase and let dry each time, and more, but mostly because if I go to the trouble of writing a note by hand, I like to have a paper copy as it is as a physical backup to what I would send to the cloud. However, the extremely modest investment in a Rocketbook journal paid off unexpectedly when I discovered in the process of uploading my Rocketbook pages to Evernote that it's just as quick and easy to upload notes from my physical journal right in the Evernote app. And that Evernote already has all the same built-in features like searching handwritten text that the Rocketbook does, without the hassles and the added advantage of my being able to keep the journal note I'd written. I'd simply never explored Evernote to any real extent, so thank you once again for opening my eyes to new technical possibilities. Kes and I go way back, and one of my main claims to fame is that I urged him to create a blog where he shows his wonderful paintings. He's not an early adopter, but he follows along on my promptings, and so I'm glad that the Rocketbook enthusiasm led to him using Evernote in a new way. And I know what he's saying, because I've noticed in Evernote when you can scan a document, and it has a very sort of a similar look on the iPhone where it's sort of lining up at the edges of the document, and once it does that, it can snap it, and that's pretty much the same technology or the look to the Rocketbook when it's scanning one of its pages. So and you know, I totally get what Kes is saying about the messiness of it. I sort of it's like finger painting to me sometimes when I'm wiping off the Rocketbook page with a little rag and all that stuff and spraying the bottle of water. It's at this point it's still fun, but I think that as a sustainable way to take notes, the Evernote process that he's talking about probably does make some sense. Guven Vidovine wrote to me and pointed out a problem with the show notes page. This is the KindleChronicles.com, and I frankly haven't spotted. I've got it set up under Libsyn now, and for each week's post, you get the show notes with the links, and when you've got them all there, when you've just landed on thekindlechronicles.com, each one has a little read more link, and when you click on it, it doesn't work for some reason. I'm going to have to put a ticket in for Libsyn to see if I can get this fixed. But Guven wrote as follows: Hi Len, I think it's been a couple of years since I noticed the dysfunctional read more link at the lower right of the TKC page each Saturday. I don't know if it is a blocker in Firefox or is occurring among other Windows 10 users with browsers like Edge and Chrome too. Now, I tested it on my MacBook here in Safari, Edge, Firefox, and Chrome, and it didn't work in any of them. So I think this is kind of a pervasive problem. Guven continues, I am used to right-clicking that link for copy this link location and then pasting into the browser in order to display the content. Well, that's unfortunate that you have to do that much of a workaround to see the full show notes for any particular episode. But readers of TKC who are older, fussier, or unaccustomed to this manual process of going to the target of the hot link may just jump to the conclusion that the link is not working. So I'm ready to let you know that the blog publisher software or host for TKC continues to keep from serving the target URL when clicking on Read More. In the workaround I'm using, you might like to put a helpful note in parallel to the one about MP3 downloading. Right-click. In case there are readers who are not sure what to do if their own browser blocker renders the Read More inoperable. Enjoying a cool morning in West Michigan, Guven. Well, thanks for pointing that out, Guven, and I'm going to see if I can get that fixed with my friends at Libsyn. Fourth tech tip. I found a interesting product named Paperlike, and it's called the iPad Screen Protector for Creators and Doers, Draw and Write Like on Paper. Now, this relates to sort of a long exploration I've had on the best way to take notes, and I initially decided I didn't want to take notes longhand, freehand, using the Apple Pencil on the iPad because the glass was too slick. It just didn't have that kind of a smooth paper-like feeling, and that's why I fell in love with the Remarkable, and now I'm using the Remarkable 2 for kind of my left brain analytical work. But this thing was saying that you could get that paper-like feel if you put their protector over the iPad screen. So I ordered it. It was a little pricey, $39.99, to get it to fit my iPad Pro 11-inch. And it was a very complicated process. There were little tags to put on, and you lined it up, and you pulled the pages apart, and then you put it down, and you chased bubbles, and they had it all very well described in a video. But it took me maybe 20 minutes, and I did something wrong, and at the end there was a big scratch across the page. So it wasn't going to be something I was going to be able to use because of that scratch. But then also the next day, I was doing a Zoom call with my grandsons, Jake and Ryan, and as I was looking at their image, maybe kind of at an angle, the protector was muting it. I was not getting a good image on the Zoom video, and at that point I just ripped it off. I said, I'm not, and I wasn't getting enough of an advantage in the aesthetics of drawing with the Apple Pencil on this thing. But, it was a lot of thought had gone into it. I think it's a pretty successful product by the looks of it, and it might have been that if I had put it on more perfectly, I might have liked it better. I don't know. But if you've thought you want a protector and you'd like to have a not completely glass feel to an iPad or another tablet, you might check it out, and I'll have a link to it in the show notes. Time now for the interview. John Love is Amazon's Director and General Manager for Alexa Shopping. His LinkedIn profile says he is building out teams in Seattle and Israel, quote, that will create the future of shopping through connected devices. If you're interested in joining the ever-expanding Alexa team, John's LinkedIn says he is currently hiring for, quote, machine learning scientists, research scientists, and senior software engineers with a focus in data structures and algorithms, IR, problem solving, OO design, and system design. I don't know what a couple of those terms mean, but if you do, maybe you should send him a resume. I had a chance to talk with John this week because Amazon's PR team sent out news of a new feature for Alexa. She can now recommend books. Since I was looking for a guest, I was grateful that Simona, who's new on the PR team, was able to help me book John on very short notice for this week's show. He and I spoke by Skype yesterday between Ocean Park, Maine, and his home in the Seattle area. I began by asking what led him to switch from working at Albertsons and take a job at Amazon nearly 15 years ago.
Well, a little background on me. I'm one of the rare locals for Amazon, born and raised in Seattle. I went to University of Washington, and I had actually worked at Albertsons just as a college job. I had bagged groceries, checked stock shelves to, kind of pay tuition. And I was, my studies were in business and math, and I was always considering kind of what did I wanted to do next. And I fell into an opportunity to work for our local corporate office in the consumer packaged goods industry, running private label and designing kind of our selection, managing pricing, negotiating terms, all that type of thing. And I got the opportunity to do a handful of jobs while at Albertsons. I did M&A when we acquired some local regional chains. And in my final role, the company was rolling out Lean Six Sigma. And so I was studying problems like how to prevent employees from having accidents working in a store, how to reduce, check cashing fraud, all these types of things. But I always enjoyed these large, hard quant problems. And so what really attracted me to Amazon was the long-term view and the customer centricity. And so I had always been an admirer, and I saw an opportunity. Amazon was rolling out a Six Sigma role, and this is 2006, so we were doing websites as a service because the online business was still fairly nascent, and a lot of companies were just getting websites up and rolling.
And the Six Sigma, I've heard of that, but is that was like a problem-solving methodology, or how would you describe what that was?
Yeah, there's a few different flavors. I was Lean Six Sigma, so it was often used in supply chains, and so Toyota had rolled this out in their manufacturing process. But basically, it focused on breaking down problems, understanding the net goal, and using a statistics and a process flow mapping set of tools. I enjoyed that tool set and kind of the problem solving. And so when I saw the opening to come into Amazon in 2006, I was very excited. And so we were a smaller company then, but haven't looked back.
And that was product manager enterprise accounts. So you were doing something like the Lean Six Sigma for big accounts of Amazon at the time?
I was, yeah. Actually, some of the responsibilities were fairly similar in that we were trying to help them with forecasting demand, managing customer service calls and supply chain, dealing with freight. Some companies had not actually packaged their products intended to ship, so they would have high damage rates, and so they were trying to modify their business so that they could go online and complement their physical store business. And so I was helping in project work with that.
Well, it's fun to think of 14 years at a company that's changing as fast as Amazon has changed, and when you join the company, much smaller company, a lot of it's the same culture for sure. If someone had said, what do you hope you might be doing at Amazon 14 years from now, would you have been aiming at a particular part of the company or the kind of the work, or what might have those expectations or aspirations look like when you first came in?
Oh, that's a good question. There was a particular concept that really resonated with me when I joined, and it was all about connecting customers to products and services. So, Amazon's had this very durable belief that if, customers will appreciate good value, low prices, broad selection. Like we haven't, Jeff's been on record saying, I haven't had people ask me to charge them more and deliver things slowly.
Right.
And so, this whole concept of connecting customers to products, and we weren't always a global marketplace. And so that was really compelling. And so, my first role, we talked about being in the supply chain and working with merchants and websites, but I got the opportunity to go work in music and movies, and that's all about intellectual property. And, now we're talking about books and how you can discover those little exits. It's the same concept. And so in a way, I'm kind of still working on that same problem I started on, which is helping connect people to products and services that they enjoy and make their lives better. I'll say one thing that, as I've gained experience working on a range of different problems at Amazon, and also just in life as you become a parent and things, one element that's really stuck with me is the value of time. And I think it's just all of us, like time is such a valuable asset. And so, I'm compelled by anything where we can create convenience for customers. And I think that's a really powerful goal to seek when you're building a product or service.
Yeah. You had some time, you were director in the video games and software areas. Were you a big gamer when you were young, and for a while you had a dream job being in charge of video games?
I personally am a rather casual gamer. When I was young, I was a Mario guy, and I actually got quite good at Tetris at one point in my life when I was younger, but I was never as hardcore of a gamer as would earn significant credibility with the gaming audience. And so, these days it's playing Madden with my son. I always enjoyed some of the Elder Scrolls and Skyrim, the very escapist games, which are very different than regular life. I haven't found an application for my magic skills with dragons in my current, experiences, but sure. I will still play those from time to time. But I played more when I was in that category.
Yeah. There's so much creativity. I mean, I just dabble in it. I think I played Myst for a while, and it's just so amazing to see, people creating worlds. I mean, that's always creative, whether it's fiction or video games. Now, you became Director, General Manager for Alexa Shopping. I think that was in May of 2015, so about 5 years ago. And that was just a year after Alexa was introduced. So you're coming in. It's pretty early, at least in the public-facing part of Alexa, and you're in charge of shopping. I think that when Alexa first was introduced, there was the ability that you would be able to buy things with Alexa. How would you describe the evolution of the shopping feature on Alexa now compared to what it was 5 years ago when you started in this area?
Yeah. Well, I think our vision is the same, but certainly the features that are available and what customers are enjoying today is very different. And so we always had the idea that Alexa would be a convenient complement for shopping. But at the beginning, and I was there when we launched the first Echo device, because I was actually kind of pulled into that first, what's going to be available for shopping. It was pretty limited. We started with just the ability to buy basic household goods. If Alexa order Ziploc bags, coffee, dog food, toilet paper, those types of things. We started with a very narrow set of features that were available. But we've always taken a broader lens. I think sometimes shopping gets cast as like the register portion of the ability to check out. I think, that's important. We all need to be able to use a payment instrument to get the products and services we want. But I don't think that's the particularly interesting area. So over the time that I've been a part of the team and helped build some of the products and features, what's really emerged as some of the experiences the customers love the most is in the discovery and inspiration phase. They're asking questions. People are using Alexa, it's oftentimes it's in the kitchen. They're asking how many calories are in an avocado? How do I make lasagna? What's the best-selling, Bluetooth headphone? So a lot of it is up front in the research and discovery phase. And then, of course, there is some degree of people trying to just check out and buy. It's very convenient, particularly for reorders. Mm-hmm. That's a case that customers like a lot. We all have family favorites. Ranch dressing is a hot topic. I'm a Hidden Valley guy. You want to get the right one. And so when I say reorder ranch dressing, that's what it means at our house. And so, that scenario, your hands might be free. You're in the kitchen. As you go throughout your whole day, it's probably not wanting to use a lot of mental capacity and trying to remember you need ranch dressing. So it's easier to just grab it right then and there. And then post-purchase, allowing people to rate products, to check on package deliveries. I think anywhere that Alexa can be as or more convenient than any other option, that's what people are using it for. But it's really that full set of shopping. So it complements how you shop in stores, how you shop online. And some people shop directly through Alexa. It's any way you prefer.
Yeah, I find that reordering thing is real handy. If we have a Nespresso machine and we get those little Nespresso capsules, and I just say, Alexa, reorder Nespresso, and she remembers I like the variety pack, and I think that's all I have to do. At that point, I can buy from the screen of the show, or it shows up in my cart, and I can double check it's being sent to the right place. So the one thing I've noticed is that it's suggesting Nespresso, which is good because I frequently forget, but it's also suggesting these tortilla chips that I bought before I went on a low-carb diet. And so she's taunting me with this bag of chips that I really don't want to see. But is there a way to politely tell her, please don't show me those chips anymore, or how would I do that?
That's a great question. One of the hardest problems is, the thing that's often most helpful to customers is what they've done before.
Yeah.
But people's preferences and needs change over time, and so that's a really hard challenge. And when we face that in books as well, you want to recommend genres and authors and things that people have shown affinity with and enjoyed, but you also want to have that element of discovery and finding new hidden gems and great reads that you might not have otherwise discovered. And so that'll always be a tension. So certainly that's one of the hard problems we work on. That's information retrieval and search in the science world. Like, you can cluster things very tightly to what someone's done, but then it limits discovery. But you also don't want to ignore the fact that, if you had to go search for those Nespresso pods, that wouldn't be a good experience.
No, for sure.
We're working on it.
Well, let's switch to this cool thing that Alexa can now do. It's Alexa, what should I read next? Now, that's a very general question. It's one I love, too. I mean, the idea of that I can get the benefit of the AI in my past purchases and everything. But from what you were just talking about, the cluster of what I read, what I might like, did you have any kind of philosophical ideas as you started designing how she would answer that question that would be most helpful to your customers?
It's a great question. So we started with the tenet in this case of discovery and inspiration, and we thought, how would we provide a set of book recommendations that would really delight customers. I think, at least in my case, and a lot of folks I talk to, we tend to go for books and entertainment. A lot of times it's a trusted source, whether that's a friend who's really credible, a local bookshop owner, the New York Times bestseller list. Like, you're kind of looking for, there's so many choices out there. Amazon offers over 20 million titles. And so it's, you can go search, but, how would we, create a very natural conversation, something that's very easy, that feels very natural, that'll let you kind of go through that massive selection and get trusted recommendations. And so that was the starting point. And then the technology approach was fairly novel, because when you're doing engineering and you're writing software, a lot of times you're creating very specific things. You're storing a name or a phone number, or you're creating an API that does something very intentional. In this case, building on the Alexa Conversations technology, we designed the capability to have a conversation. So we sat back and thought, well, what would be important to have a great experience? One, you'd need to know what the customer reads. You need to know a little bit about their memberships. Is this a Kindle customer? They have Kindle Unlimited. Are they an Audible user? Do they want to listen? And then you'd want to take the best-in-breed recommendations that are already available. We have Amazon Books editorial team spends a lot of time on this. Obviously, it's very credible. And so it's like, how could you bring all those together into a very simple user experience? But I'll tell you, it's a different experience, because you don't design the end-to-end CX. You design the capabilities, and then Alexa learns how to wire up the great CX that you get when you say, Alexa, what should I read next?
And CX is customer service, or
customer experience. Sorry,
customer experience. Right.
I apologize.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll fall into the bad habit of Amazon of using acronyms. So
that's right. I can tell you do real work because you speak in a kind of code, and you don't have time to spell everything out. So that makes sense.
That's a defect, not a positive.
Now, sometimes with Alexa, she can answer a question if you pose it different ways. Are there other ways to get to this other than saying specifically, Alexa, what should I read next? Or are there any kind of suggest a book to me, Alexa? Or how broad a net have you got on kind of ways to ask it?
Yeah, it's a great question. To start with, there's a handful of ways. So you can say, Alexa, recommend an audiobook, if that's what you're looking for. You can also focus her a little bit more. We're talking about AI here. So if you said, Alexa, recommend a book on machine learning, you'd get a result that way. So if there's something particular you're looking for. It's a hard challenge, because we want Alexa to be general AI. We want her to be helpful in your everyday life, and it's interesting how words have very different meanings. I like to read autobiographies. I was just looking over at my shelf, and I'm like, okay, well, there's Alexander Hamilton. Well, that's a play. It's an album. It's a person. It's an entity. So if you said, "Hey, Alexa, find me Alexander Hamilton," it's like, well, do you want to know about the former Secretary of Treasury? Do you want to find when there's show times? Do you want to watch the movie? Do you want to hear a song? Do you want to read a book? So that context is super powerful, and that's what makes our jobs both fascinating but also challenging.
Yeah. I tried it, and it's working on mine. Is it fairly recent that anybody can ask this question of their Alexa device and receive an answer? When did it go live?
Just this month. So, Len, you are getting the very first, this is our first discussion on the brand new technology.
Wow, that's cool.
We leaked the underpinning technology, Alexa Conversations. Rohit Prasad, who's our head of Alexa AI, spoke at the REMARS conference last summer. It was June of 19, and kind of said, "Hey, this is the future world we're envisioning. This is kind of the first major, in your hands. Go play with it, and hopefully you enjoy it."
And he talked about it a little on there was a new products virtual thing, I think, last month, and I think he talked about it there too. He gave some examples of conversations. Yeah. So this is sort of falling into that whole initiative.
Yeah, it sure is. There'll be more coming.
Is it worldwide or just the U.S. at this point?
It's the U.S. at this point. Okay. We build globally, and so we certainly aspire to help all customers, but today it's U.S.
Yeah. You probably had some reaction to it so far. What do you think customers are going to love most about it?
Well, I think most what they're going to enjoy is just that trusted feature. I mean, for me, when I think about books, it's where to start. You know, I have children, and some of my small ones, you know, I'm reading a lot of Dog Man and things like that, you know, and children's books to them. But I'm always excited and trying to figure out, man, you know, if time's so valuable, what's that next book I got to go pick up? And so I'll tell you, just from the early data, it's only days old. We're super excited to see how customers are engaging with a feature, how they're asking to go through another book, the rate at which they're asking questions about a book. You know, they're hearing summaries, they're hearing ratings and reviews, all of those things. You know, we found that at Amazon. You kind of want to know, well, what have other people? What's been their experience with this? You know, what are the ratings? What are people saying about it? You know, how much does it cost? That type of thing. So I'm just super keen to see what people are asking about, you know, and this is only the beginning. We're going to keep building on it from here, but I'm excited to have it out and into the hands of customers.
I think you're right that, you know, the trusted source is a big part of it. And am I right that you wouldn't want to, like, offer people a chance to promote their books and have them rise up in the Alexa recommendations? It's strictly on the data, and I can kind of trust that the AI is actually trying to find something I want as opposed to something that somebody might have paid to promote and put in front of me. Is that like a red line that you make sure you don't cross at this point?
Well, correct. I think the other detail that's important is the AI is seeking to find the book that's most useful for you. So that wouldn't be a very successful strategy to take books that, you know, were not books aligned with your interest in what other customers are finding helpful. Yeah. It's a feature I really enjoy because you know, Alexa's learning which books are the best books to recommend, and so as more and more people use the feature, those that customers are engaging with and asking questions and choosing to buy are going to rise, and those that aren't as helpful are going to fall. And so I do expect we're going to get a ton of interesting learnings because, you know, books are so diverse, and you know, you've got series. Some people read for a lot of different reasons. You know, you might like to stay tightly within an author. You might like to try a broad, different set of genres. And so the trick is going to be to learn from kind of general aggregate customer patterns and what most customers are telling us is helpful and how to apply that for the individual. I think we've got a lot of work ahead of us to try to make it a very unique, person-centric experience, all the way down to we know it's your voice. And if you're using an Alexa anywhere, any point in the world, could we get the right book for you? Like, that's a super compelling vision, but we've just started on that.
Now, my purchase history ever since the Kindle probably shows 98% of the books that I buy are for Kindle. So will the AI and Alexa know that? And so when I ask to recommend a book, it's just going to be Kindle books that come up on my screen?
In a way, it's not as deterministic as that. One of the phrases we use a lot is when you're working with AI, everything is probabilistic. So it's Alexa does know that the bulk of your purchases are Kindle. And so Alexa will use that information to make a calculated guess at which format is going to be the most helpful for you. And for some customers, that might be very easy because maybe they always prefer to read in a given format. You know, it's like my wife goes to bed earlier than I am, can't leave the lights on a Kindle with a backlight. That's an ideal reading scenario for me. But I have young children, and for them, a lot of times we like print books. Sure. And, you know, if you have a commute, you know, sometimes I've got a brother who drives in, you know, and he will listen to audiobooks on the road and then Kindle at home. And so we actually use both customer level signal and aggregate consumer level signal to figure out which one's which, because for textbooks and kids, maybe that's more print oriented. And for some of the others, you know, it might lend itself better to an Audible or Kindle format. Right. But Alexa is trying to guess that right for you. And we always want to keep the customer in control. So if you don't like the format presented, you can just ask for it in a different format.
I tried asking Alexa, what audiobooks should I listen to next? And she said, here are Len's audiobooks. She didn't seem queued up yet to give the same look at audiobooks as I was getting from print or Kindle books. Is that something that's coming, or what would, maybe I just asked the question wrong. If I wanted her to recommend something like, say, an Audible Original, I just bought the Audible Plus membership, so I've got all these great content on Audible Originals.
Yeah, all you can eat,
Can I just ask her to recommend one of those that I would like?
The entrance question matters quite a lot, with all the things she can do, including smart home and information. And so if you said, Alexa, provide me with an audiobook recommendation, or Alexa, that would get you into an audiobook experience.
How about mysteries? Could I say, Alexa, recommend a mystery book to read, and she'd sort of aim at that big genre?
Yeah, she would. So if you've got an intended genre you're interested in, Alexa, I want an autobiography. Alexa, I want a mystery. What she'll do then is curate the recommendations out of that set. And so that's a helpful filter for Alexa to say, oh, okay, now I'm going to go look at, and she can still look at your library and anything you might have read in that genre, but also then access all the, top recommendations with there. And then you can go from there.
Another one I tried, I said, Alexa, what movie should I watch next? And she brought up, it looked like a skill named MovieBot, and I was going to be able to walk through that. But are there movies built into what she can recommend now beyond books and audiobooks?
Today, the experience is all books, so it's all about reading.
Yeah.
Reading goes core to our DNA at Amazon.
Yeah.
Jeff, we started as an online bookstore. We really believe reading is just a universal goodness, and so we've started there. There are skills. So the Alexa Conversations framework is available. So there's other companies building on Alexa Conversations. Mm-hmm. We've also announced there'll be Alexa, What Should I Make for Dinner coming out soon.
Oh.
So we will continue inventing what we believe customers will find most helpful, but we don't want to limit it to our own ideas. So we want everyone to be able to build these experiences.
I imagine you probably solved some problems along the way. Is there one that stands out as the hill you didn't ever think you'd get to the top of, and you figured out a way to have it be part of this new competence?
Ooh. Well, you talked about just joining Audible Plus, and so we were redoing the membership tiers as part of, while we were building this experience. So one of the things, we talked about, she tries to pick a book in the format you'd prefer. She also she looks to see if you can get a deal, meaning if it's in Audible Plus, if it's in Kindle Unlimited, she's going to find you the most advantageous option for you.
That's great.
So it works on kind of the checkout and payment side too. So she's aware of credit, she's aware of memberships, and we'll also do that. And so, it sounds fairly simple, but you still have to deal with, tax and checkouts and memberships. And there was a little bit of extra invention required to make sure that both we can navigate the massive catalog, but also that we can, help customers find it. I think the toughest challenge is just the natural language. It's still not where it needs to be in the future. We want these experiences to be incredibly fast and incredibly natural. And we spent a bunch of time on this experience. We've got more work to do. There were also some unforeseen kind of opportunities to enrich the experience. And that included things like finding the best option for you. So if you're Audible Premium Plus, if you're Kindle Unlimited, and you have access to borrow a book for free, Alexa will do that automatically, and we'll seek that out versus asking you to go buy a copy.
That's really great. I think that's terrific.
We were excited about that.
And I think that as you use it, if you can tell that she's actually kind of looking out for your interests to take advantage of whatever subscriptions you've made, that's going to really build a bond between me and Alexa, the book recommender.
Yep. We hope so. I mean, it all falls into the convenience for the customer. People have Audible memberships, and sometimes, they won't remember they have a credit or something. So Alexa could even proactively remind you and say, hey, did you know there's new content in Audible, there's new content in Kindle, here, you've got credits, we can do all those, no money out of pocket, you're already a member, here's some great content. And so, if people spend more time reading and get more enjoyment out of it, that's success for us in this feature.
That's a win. Okay, well, fantastic. I'm looking forward. Now, the problem is lurking behind this. I get so excited about a new feature like this, but I think there are roughly 300 books in my Kindle library that I bought just because they were a good deal or I wanted them, and I have not read them yet. And I'm 70 years old. I probably won't live long enough to read all the books that I have. So the idea of getting more recommended books, it still delights me because, but there is that overhang of all the books that I haven't read yet.
Yeah, I can't solve you that one for you, Len. That's a good problem to have. Is more entertainment content. I'll tell you, this has been an interesting year on a ton of different dimensions. I mean, I was just even looking at kind of the almost interesting irony of, the original launch of Conversations talked about a night out, and it was all about traveling. You're getting in a car, and you're going to a movie, you're going to dinner, and now the experiences are live are, making dinner at home, reading a good book, but
exactly.
if the work from the team, I get the privilege of working with an incredibly talented group of product managers, engineers, scientists. And, if we can make people's lives a little better, just some more entertainment, some more escape. And we see people reinventing themselves. I've been super impressed with all the businesses and individuals kind of adapting to the challenges. And we see that. We see a lot of people looking for, building a new skill through the reading they're doing. And so I just think it's super exciting and encouraging. And I'm thankful to get to work on problems like this.
That's awesome. I have been speaking with John Love, Amazon's Director and General Manager for Alexa Shopping. Thanks very much, John.
Thanks, Len. Thanks for having me.
For the content section, I think I'm going to demonstrate some of how this new feature works on Alexa, and let's just give her a spin here. Alexa, recommend a book.
One moment while I find a selection of books for you. Based on your purchase history, here's a book you might like. The Bezos Letters, 14 Principles to Grow Your Business Like Amazon. It's $8.69. Find delivery details at Amazon. Try saying things like, here a summary, get ratings, or next recommendation.
Well, boy, that's spot on. Here's a book about Bezos. It's on Kindle. She knows I like Kindle. And I think I'll just buy it. Alexa, buy that book. And buy this. So I'm on my Echo Show, so I'm touching that. And
order placed and added to Len's Kindle library.
Huh. Interesting. So let's try it again. I want to demonstrate something I learned earlier today. Alexa, recommend a book.
One moment while I find a selection of books for you. Based on your purchase history, here's a book you might like. Poems 1962 to 2012, Los Angeles Times Book Award, Poetry. It's $9.99. Find delivery details
Alexa,
at
stop.
Amazon.
So one thing I've noticed is that if I simply ask for her to recommend a book, she jumps around in categories. That first one was, biography or management theory, then over to poetry because I have an obvious interest in poetry. And earlier when I tried one, I got a cookbook for 2 people. Does she know there's only 2 people in our household? I don't know. But the kind of probing discovery aspect of the search is there, and it's interesting. And she's also prompting a conversation. I think one thing that I would tweak is that if you do this a lot, you hear the same words. I'm going to do this based on your purchase history, and then it says you can say things like this. Well, the 10th time that you do this, I think some of that boilerplate speaking, it maybe should be trimmed, so you're just going right to the heart of the matter. It's pretty clear that this whole conversational natural speech AI is a thing, and that this book recommendation feature is maybe the point of the spear. Books are always kind of leading the way at Amazon, and so I just on a lark I tried this. Alexa, what should I have for supper?
Okay. For dinner, here's a few recipes. Slow cooker ribs. Pasta alla norma. Seared duck breast with pomegranate molasses.
Alexa, stop. So I'm getting very tasty looking pictures of all of these that are showing up on the screen. Then I'm getting a message saying, show me vegetarian recipes. So you maybe have a little conversation about what we might cook for dinner. Here's another one I tried. Alexa, what should I wear today?
Today in Old Orchard Beach it's cloudy and cool. Wear an oversized trench coat. Wear it over a white button-up and navy chinos. I've sent a notification to your Amazon shopping app to shop the look. You can also search Style by Alexa to view past recommendations or update your preferred shopping department.
So this is pretty cool. On my screen, I'm looking at a very dapper young dude who's got a trench coat sort of draped over his shoulders like a spy. He's got some red suspenders and some black pants. And she's keying in on the temperature here at Ocean Park, saying, well, you might want to wear this, a little coat. And I'm sure I could get into a conversation of where to get all that stuff to buy. So there's just a couple of things that I was fishing around to see if she could help me with, and I have a feeling there's probably more that aren't kind of being rolled out with the fanfare that the books recommendation got. But the books recommendation thing is pretty cool, I just have to say. And, I thought about Goodreads because a lot of what Goodreads is about, I think their motto is Goodreads help you find your next favorite book. And you've got all of these recommendations from friends, and there's too much. There's too many choices at Goodreads, and it's sort of overwhelming. But to have this sort of rifle shot recommendation where I just ask her for a book, and then to be surprised at how uncanny the suggestions are. Well, here's a book about Bezos. Here's a book of poems by a poet I know. There's a little bit of a magic feeling or an eerie feeling, along with the fact that, of course, she's offering me books that are on Kindle. It feels like a book valet or someone bringing things to me which I think are going to be intriguing. So bravo to the Alexa shopping team, and if you experiment with this and you have some success or some thoughts about how it could be improved, please send them along to me at podchronicles@gmail.com. That's it for this week. I've got a couple of interesting guests coming up. I'm not sure what the sequence of them. I'll be talking to them both next week. One is David Blum, who is editor-in-chief of Audible Originals. He's been at Amazon for 10 years now. He left a kind of a traditional New York publishing scene career to be the founding editor of Kindle Singles, and then I think maybe 4 years ago he shifted over to Audible. So it's going to be very interesting to find out why he made that shift, and he's doing some very creative work at Audible. That kind of reminds me of what he did at Kindle Singles, because he's working with these Audible Originals. My next author interview will be with Bryan Washington. This is a author I read about. He's from Houston, and he had a book of short stories that was fabulously successful. I think President Obama said it was one of his favorite books. And now he has his debut novel that is going to be released next week by Penguin Random House, and the title is Memorial. And I reached out to someone I know at Penguin Random House to see if I could get onto the schedule for interviews, and was actually kind of surprised that I landed one, which means I'm going to be reading this large book in advanced reader copy most of the weekend. But that should be an interesting interview. We're still at Ocean Park. We're getting ready to head south to Florida probably in about a month, so we're going to be on the road at some point. I hope I'll have a chance to see Jerry Riddle in person in Raleigh, and we're going to have quite a trek in the Tesla, taking our time with Sophie the puppy and ending up on Sanibel Island by December 1st for a few months down there with Darlene's sister Deb. So we're winding down here at Ocean Park after 7 or 8 months, and it's been a wonderful time. But I'm ready for a road trip. I think it's going to be a new adventure for us. Thanks, as always, for coming along for the ride. I really appreciate your listening to my podcast. Have a great day. Bye.